what life would have been if I hadn't spent my time here growing up. And I've probably shared this story with you many times. Every time I come up here, I've probably shared just the story that I was a pretty bad kid. And the Sunday school teachers didn't really know what to do with me, and got different gifts like a Bible. And the inscription inside was, what was it? Something about learning to shut my mouth. That's a great inscription to give people for their Bible presents. So anyways, I have such a fond memory of this place that I can't help but think about what impact the church is making for you guys now. And I'm so impressed to see young people here. It just reminds me of when we were kids. When we were kids here, the oldest people that were in this side, never mind that side. That side there's a wall there for a reason. There's that side always a bit older. Our side younger, and our youth group leaders were young. They were university students. I feel like I'm gonna bang that speaker. Our youth group leaders were university students. Some of us were only in high school teaching in junior youth, or what do you call it here? Junior fellowship. What do you call it now? Junior church? Not KFC anymore? KFC is Friday. So I have to think about this stuff a lot and go, well, what message do I bring to people who are like in many ways, my DNA? So anyways, I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. For those of you who don't know what I do or who I am or whatever, I work with an organization called University Campus Ministries. Wonderful people. Picture there, we went hiking. Where did we go hiking? I don't remember. Do you remember when we went hiking? We try to do something at the beginning of a school year just to bring groups together. So we have university students from Mount Royal and U of C in that photo. I don't think there's any state people there. No. So I started at SAIT in 2015, in September 2015. I was at Mount Royal for 10 years before that. But the whole thing started because of this fellow here, Kelly Johnson, on the far, your left, I guess. No, you're right. You're right. And Kelly Johnson, where am I pointing this thing? To there? Is this right? There. Kelly Johnson and his family. Kelly Johnson started connecting with ministry stuff the way most of us do in university. So Kelly and Karina were part of a Youth of the Mission group in university, and a few others in our age range. I didn't go to University of Calgary, and yet I hung out with them all because at Mount Royal there was no group. I was at Mount Royal, and then later on I was at SAIT, and there's no Christian groups. So I venture my way up to the U of C to hang out with the Christian groups and to hang out at Mac Hall. And so Kelly 21 years ago started having our very first Pentecostal presence on campus. So we're all part of Missions Canada and the larger umbrella, and under that umbrella is Campus Missions Canada. And so there's so many different kind of campus ministries that are available in Canada. I can only speak for Canada. But we are the only ones, the only Pentecostal ones at least, that are chaplains. Everywhere else throughout Canada, you have club leaders, you got ministry leaders who run different clubs, like you've heard of InterVarsity Christian Fellowship or Power to Change or Campus for Christ, as they used to be called. It's clubs. But for whatever reason, 21 years ago, Kelly was given the green light to be a chaplain. And from that point on, it sprung into all sorts of stuff. Like I said, I was at Mount Royal. Am I hitting the right buttons here? Yeah. Oh, no. There we go. And now in 2016, we welcomed Craig Craig Murray and his family. That's his wife Fee and Sophia in the back, and Sana for Susanna. And they're from Scotland. I was gonna try a Scottish accent, but every accent I try. I don't know about you. Every accent I try comes up Chinese. So they've been serving with us full time at Mount Royal since September 2016, and he came to Canada serving as a worship pastor, but things didn't work out in the church that he was at, and they had to revamp and reorganize, and he didn't think it was going the same direction that he felt God calling him to Canada for. And then we jumped on the opportunity to welcome into our connections of campus ministry, because that's where his heart is. It's with young people. And so, excuse me, he joined us in 2016, and he's been fantastic for Mount Royal University. Mount Royal University, I was there for 10 years, just part-time. And this is the first time we've had a full-time chaplain at Mount Royal. In 10 years I've been there, in the 105 years of Mount Royal's existence, they didn't have a full-time chaplain. People are only part-time. And because of this, they recognize this, and Mount Royal threw on in a big celebration to welcome him in. And so we had the president there and all these important people, and it was fantastic. Why was Mount Royal, a secular educational institution, putting on this endeavor for us to celebrate that we were welcoming Craig into the University Campus Ministries? Anyways, God's blessing, I guess. And then our third chaplain. And if you haven't been to SAIT, who's not been to SAIT? Everyone's been there? People are embarrassed to do it. Don't be embarrassed. Put up your hand if you've not been to SAIT. Or if you've not been to SAIT recently, within the last, since 2000 or 2001. There's been so many changes at SAIT. I went there back in 1989 or something. I can't remember. Long time ago. 1990. And it was a lot different. It was very blue collar. I studied the EMS program and went on to later work on air ambulance and all that sort of stuff. Had a blast doing that. And I thought I'd never come back to SAIT. So when the opportunity came for me to come back to SAIT, and we just went to SAIT, Kelly and I went to SAIT and just did a little prayer walk just to consider whether or not we should join into the ministry there, the ministry opportunity that they were welcoming for us to be part of. And I went away and thought, I guess we'll talk about and pray about it and meet with our board. Where's Jackson? Jackson's on our board. And we thought, oh yeah, we'll talk with these guys, and I thought, yeah, we'll take months and we'll hand out or we'll put out a posting for advertising. Maybe we can get someone out there part time and blah blah blah. And the next thing I know, come June, because we went in like March, and then in June it was announced to me that I was going to SAIT. I'm like, what? But I'm at Mount Royal and I love it there. And I was like, oh, you're going to SAIT. So I started going to SAIT, and I go, I don't know what to do here, because it reminded me of what Mount Royal used to be when it was a college. Students are there very part-time. So you get students, if they're running the diploma, their program's 2 years. Jared's at Mount Royal now. Or sorry, SAIT. Forgot what campus I was on. Jared's at SAIT, and it's been fantastic to meet him there, and we've had some coffees. And so the thing with SAIT, though, I don't know how to run program when it's only 2 years. So when you meet a student, you don't know when you're meeting them, if you're meeting them in the first year or the second year. And I found it very difficult to run program for people who are only there for a very, very short time. Mount Royal and U of C, you get people there 4 years, right? So if you meet them in the first year, you get a 4-year relationship with a student. You can do a lot in 4 years. we're going to have Daniel come and talk a little bit and share his story about his experience with UCM in a little bit. But 4 years is a long time. How many years you been at UFC? 5. We'll pray for him later. How about Jack? How long you been there? 3 years. So you're coming on the end. So anyways, it's been wonderful to engage with students, but you have to be a little bit creative at SAIT, which is a little bit different than we have at UFC and at Mount Rowe. At UFC and Mount Rowe, we run programs and students attend fairly regularly. We have a worship time that Daniel's part of. And what did you say? We get like 30, 35 people out there regularly every week. That's awesome. What's our congregation right now? Something similar. So we're getting this every week, and we could pretty much run church service there if we wanted. Mount Royal, it's a little bit different. It has probably half or less than half of the population of UC, and we used to get 20 people out, and now we get like 10 and less. But that's okay. It's still fairly successful. SAIT, I tried it, and I had no one. SAIT, then I thought, well, we're going to have to get creative and see what we do here. So we ran monthly worship, and that seemed to work better. We ran a once a week worship. I had like 3 or 4 people. Didn't work out well. Tried for once a month, and I was getting 30, 35. This is awesome. Except every month it was a different 30, 35 people. So I was like, well, probably 20 of them were different. I had a core 10 that would come, and then another 20 that I'd meet for the first time. And then next month, I don't know you 20. What happened to the last 20? And people would be all different every time. And so it's exciting to see that things have to change, and you have to adapt, and you have to respond to what's going on. Anyways, Daniel, why don't you come share a little bit about what UCM has been looking like for you?
So thanks, Art. Thanks for speaking. Do you want to see or something? Or?
No, I'm done.
Oh. So hi, I'm Daniel, if you don't know me already. So as Art already said, I'm a soon-to-be graduate at the U of C. Yay. Okay, sorry, I didn't say that right. I'm a soon-to-be graduate of the U of C. I'm going to be graduating. I'm going to be leaving this godforsaken place. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. But to be honest, though, I'm going to be doing another 2 years, so I'm not leaving anytime soon. So many of you already know me. Many of you already know my story, so I don't really need to say anything else, right? So I can just okay, no kidding. So I grew up in this church. I first started coming to when it was like JFK. That one is that old. I don't think you know, right, Joey? Remember that? Yes. And then I started going to KFC, and then Yak on Friday nights, then to CNC, and kind of now on Sunday mornings. So when I first arrived at university, I was excited and expectant to see what God would do on campus. But it proved to be a tough endeavor because all the schoolwork, the language hiccups, because I study languages, joining clubs, profs attacking Christianity left, right, and center, having a hard time with people, having a friend break fellowship with you, holding down a part-time job because of family situations, also almost losing our house, working at the Faith and Spirituality Center on campus, and along with serving at church. It was difficult to see how God was at the center of it all, and I was extremely exhausted. That's where UCM came in. Through connecting with Kelly and Art, and later on Craig, and having them care for me and minister and support and speak life into students in distress, just like me, I started to see the bigger picture of what life was really about, and to see God's heart for campus. So I got involved. So I started leading worship at the U, and let me tell you, they were the most uplifting times of the week. not because they were a time to escape or a time of leaving the place, but they were a time of meeting God, communing with Him, and also inviting Him in the midst of all the craziness. I see this also knowing that university was a formative time of my life. It's a time where you explore and discover who you are. You have freedom to go to class and not go to class. You fall in love, you have your heart broken, then you say, why did I get hung up over that? And then you go travel the world where you decide on whether or not the sleepless night or these sleepless nights are actually worth a piece of paper, and etc. Although university has had its ups and downs, and more downs than ups, I still question why God made me go through 5 years of hell at the UC, and another one, and another one, and another one. If you don't get that reference, it's from, okay, never mind. And another one, like, okay. So yeah, but I don't really regret my time spent with UCM. The team has played an indelible role on my life, from spiritual discernment to learning how to have interfaith dialogue with inter-Christian dialogue, even to confessing sins, to hanging out, to even getting relationship advice. I mean, chaplains can hook a brother up. Finding out the purpose of your life. Okay, maybe it's just a little bit, but all in all, without UCM, I wouldn't be here today. And in fact, I'm not sure I'd be a Christian if it weren't for the Christian community on campus at the UC. I don't think I'd be here today. So I share all this because I believe that we need ministries like this on campus, like UC, MRU, SAIT, and even places like ACAD or Bow Valley or other places of higher education. These are the places where our future leaders are being formed, and what a better time to meet students where they're at, to encourage them and support them, to raise them up to flourish in their faith as they pursue Jesus as well as their degrees by the leading of the Holy Spirit to the glory of God the Father. Amen. So thank you for supporting and investing into the ministry, and please keep praying for future generations to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel, for sharing that. So yeah, University Campus Ministries has been a wonderful place for us to experience Christians in so many different areas of their walk, and non-Christians. People come to chaplaincy in a place where, church isn't on their brains. Relationship with God isn't on their brains. Even for Christians. For Christians, majority of you're focusing on your field of study. You got to concentrate. You got to pour everything into it. Life with Christ, it's a thing you do on the weekend. It's not something that you engage with on a daily basis. So it always leads me to the question, in these formative years, as Daniel alluded to, what are we forming into young people? If it's only habits of busyness, and it's a separation between Christ and our world, what are the habits that we form? So, having said that, though, we do run in with a lot of people. I don't know what your favorite greeting is. Who's got a really neat greeting? When you meet someone, what's your favorite greeting? Who's got that really creative, hi, my name is blank. What's your name? Who's got that greeting? Is that what our most common greeting is? Or how about, hi, my name's so-and-so, and what do you do? Right? I'm so-and-so, I do this, and what do you do? Is that our greeting? It seems to be like our greetings always bounce around two things, our name, and the very next question, am I wrong? You can correct me. This is a free form. The next question after what is your name is, what do you do? Is this true? Yeah, pretty much, pretty close. Depending on the context, right? You could be watching hockey. Oh, which one's your kid? That might be the first one. Whatever the identifier is, I find that the identifier is often your job. And like I alluded to, this is a really strange place for chaplains to be. We're on a secular campus. No matter how you want to paint the picture, Mount Royal started as a Methodist mission opportunity. And so it has its roots in the Methodist Church. But other than that, SAIT doesn't. U of C doesn't. Most campuses in Canada don't have its roots in Christianity whatsoever. So what is chaplains? Like, what is that? And what are chaplains doing on campus? And so every time either Kelly or Craig or myself say, hi, we're so-and-so, and we work as chaplains here in the Faith and Spirituality Center or the Multi-Faith Center or the Interfaith Center, people go, what? Wait, what did you say? What are you? What do you do? What department is that? People who are non-Christians are bewildered by the fact that we have a Faith and Spirituality Center at UC or Multi-Faith Center at Mount Royal or Interfaith Center at SAIT. They don't get it. What the heck are you doing here? Why are you here? And then when I meet Christians are surprised and also bewildered and ecstatic, almost going, what? We have what? And what are you? Well, you look at me, I'm Chinese, so you think I'm the Buddhist chaplain. But really, the Buddhist chaplain is white, and I'm the Christian chaplain. And so, what? So the Christians who meet, they're all ecstatic. This is so wonderful. How did you get this? How did this come to play? Atheists and non-Christians, well, I shouldn't say non-Christians, but atheists especially, find that we don't have any business being there. We're like, why are we there? This is supposed to be a safe place for me as an atheist. I don't need you people here. So then the identifier comes with a little bit of baggage. When people, I'm sure you've experienced this too, when you meet a non-Christian at work or whatever, and if they identify as atheists, there can sometimes be some animosity to you once they discover that you're a Christian. Is that right? Has anyone experienced that, identify with that? That's a hard thing. That's a hard thing because we seem to carry with us a lot of baggage with us as Christians. Now, representing Jesus, I take it as a very important role in our lives. Is that right? Do you find it scary to represent Jesus? If you're in a group and people go, like my in-laws do this to me all the time. We get together for a gathering of all the family, and my father-in-law always says, well, we're going to eat now, so Art, would you like to pray? Why me? Oh, because you have this role and this title and this thing, right? Anyone can pray. Anyone can pray. Just because I have a role and a title doesn't mean that I'm the only one to pray. I mean, get you to pray for kids and whatever, right? So anyone can pray, but representing Jesus is a scary thing. And I think it's scary because we take it very seriously, right? When you talk to Muslims and they take it very seriously. You talk to a Muslim, you say, would you like to come and speak on behalf of the Muslim? Oh, I can't speak on behalf of Muslims. I can speak on behalf of myself, but not Muslims. Yeah, okay, I get that. I fully get that. You don't want to be seen as the expert on your religion. You don't want to be the one that represents your entire religion. But I think for us as Christians, it's slightly different. It's an opportunity to represent Jesus. When you get asked to represent Jesus in any way, shape, or form, it's a bit of a privilege. Wow, you recognize that I'm a Christian? You recognize that faith is important to me and you want me to speak into that or to say a prayer or whatever? That's kind of a privilege. So we view things a little bit differently. So when you get in your group and people go, oh, sorry, Art's here or oh, Clement's here, guys, mind your tongue. Let's, watch your French, they say, right? And so that's fantastic when you get recognized that way and, okay, maybe people want to change their behavior around you. It's because you represent Jesus. Now, going back a little bit about when people are antagonistic toward us once we say that we're Christians, something like that. That's a hard thing. Back in the day, oh, sorry, let me go back here. These are our board members. Jackson! This is a group, we did bowling at SAIT. Did you know there's bowling alley at SAIT? You guys can rent a bowling alley for your youth group. When's youth group? Friday? If you invite me, then maybe I can get you a discount. Where's the bowling alley? It's in the campus center, in the basement, right underneath the jug of juice. And yes, what? It exists. And if we don't use it, they'll get tear it out and use the space for something else. So let's use it. We have a bowling alley and we have a saltwater swimming pool. So guys like me who don't know how to swim, you can float. Oh, I'll get back to that. Okay, representing Jesus. That's the picture of Jesus. That's a pretty harsh picture to live up to, huh? So when you reflect Jesus, is that you? A little glow around you? Anyways. Representing Jesus is an enormous undertaking, and I know we all take it seriously. We do our best to try to represent the gospel truthfully and fully. But it's hard. Since November 2016, I'll go back to that other picture. I've had some opportunity to be interviewed and written up on and stuff like. So this is a State Alumni magazine. They wrote an article on me, and then the Calgary Herald interviewed me for something, and the Calgary Sun. And can you not hear me? Am I not speaking in the mic? Sorry, Mike. Oh. So I've had a few opportunities to be interviewed in a few different articles, and then class projects and production and school projects and all that sort of stuff. And I started going, why? Since November to January, I got 7 different interviews. Now, I've been working at Mount Royal for 10 years and didn't get a single interview. Nobody was interested in what I was doing on my story. And I show up at State, and then within a year, I'm getting all these interviews. What's going on? So I started to ask God, what's going on here? Why? Why is this happening? And I got reminded of a verse that is one of my life verses and one of my favorite verses. It's Philippians chapter 4, verse 9. Now, most of us memorize and get taught chapter 4, verse 8. Is that right? Let's go there. Oh, bye. See you, Jesus. 4, verse 8. Anybody a good reader? Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Have you heard that verse before? Were you told to memorize that verse in Bible, in Sunday school or whatever, right? Probably. Like, it's a very important verse. It's the things that we're supposed to set our minds on. This is how we're supposed to set our values into motion. This is how we're supposed to behave. This leads us into how we live our life. That's fantastic. It's a great verse. But I've never really found that I personally grab hold of that verse as well as I do the next verse. It's this verse. It says, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. This is an amazing verse, Paul writing to the Philippians. Whatever you've seen, whatever you've learned or heard or received from me, put that into the practice. That is a reminder to me that there's mentorship that happens in our world. I learn from people. There's people in this church that I'm so connected to and to the memories of people who I learn things from. I learned things from them because they were key figures in my life. Just played hockey on Friday, and Danny Wong was talking about, oh yeah, we used to drive you guys in the church bus and the loud, crazy North crew. That was us. But we learn things from people. And believe it or not, people learn things from you. So whether or not you want it to happen, people learn things from you. Oh, there's Jackson. Hi, Jackson. They learn things from you. They receive it from you. They hear it from you by osmosis sometimes. Sometimes it's on purpose. Those of you who are parents, you know this. You can tell all you want for your son to clean his room, and he won't because he learns from me that I don't clean mine. Right? So people learn and glean things all the time. So when you're representing Jesus, how much of the things that you say have an effect, and how much of the things they see have an effect? How many of the things that people receive from you just by your actions have a greater effect? Representing Jesus is a hard thing to do. Part of the problem about our society's view on Christianity, and when you come on the campus, you can get confronted with it head on all the time about Christians. Why are Christians believing the things that they believe, or especially you as chaplains, what business do you have here? We have some professors at Mount Royal, and especially that's my experience at Mount Royal. There's one professor was anti anything religion on campus. She was also anti anything pro women's rights, also anti anything pro indigenous rights. She says this is supposed to be a place of learning, not a place of social responsibility and all this sort of stuff, right? So she's only into philosophy. And so you could fairly easily be in a place of philosophy and argue what you believe, what you don't believe. Apologetics is a big deal for a lot of Christians on campus. So if you're not sure what you believe, you want to learn what you believe and why you believe it. You want to question it. It's a good thing. If you should study your Bible. You should read Christian history, because the things that have happened, they affect who we are now as a church. And so these sort of things are very important for us, because when we have that stuff in our brains and we understand it, then we understand what people view about us. We understand what people think about us, and we can defend our faith. That's what the apologetics is, the ability to defend the things that you believe philosophically. Now, as I said, when you're at university, you have 4 years with someone, that's pretty great. You can argue for 3 of them. And then on the 4th year, you can get into the heart of the matter, right? Hopefully you can make friends with people that you're friends with at work or wherever, your neighbors. And if they find out you're a Christian, they want to argue, well, you've got time. You got time to argue. I used to welcome this Jehovah's Witness lady to my door all the time. Do you remember her, Karina? Early on when we moved into Mackenzie Town, there's a Jehovah's Witness lady who came into our door several times. And I was working more so with Youth with Mission, so I was working out of the home a lot. And she'd come and knock on the door, and I'd welcome her in and talk about stuff. But this one time she came, and it was Easter weekend. She came and she goes, "Would you believe that some people in our world believe that Jesus is the Son of God?" Yeah. And would you believe that they think that actually he is God? Yeah. And then she just went on espousing why she thought that was ridiculous and all this sort of stuff. And then I said, you know what? If you've noticed, you haven't even stepped foot past the front of my door. And normally I'd let you in, but today you've offended me. So like you've completely offended me without even asking what I believe or how I view these sort of things. I let you talk all the time. So do you live here? Do you live in my neighborhood? No, I don't live in this neighborhood. So you just purposefully came to my neighborhood to come and knock on my door to offend me. That's what you're doing? And I started thinking about, what do we do as Christians? Do I do that? Do I get into people's faces to a point where all I care is to offend them? And I know that people have used this kind of terminology where you go, well, it's okay if you offend the 99 for the sake of the 1, right? I get it, but someone's got to clean up the mess with the 99. And I get it that you go, oh, there's bells ringing in heaven, an angel got its wings or whatever, because someone's come to the Lord. Out of the 99 you preached to, 1 came to the Lord. That's fantastic. But 99 people are going to hell because they've been offended with you, and they're never going to accept the gospel. And this is my question about us representing Jesus. What effect are we having on people's lives? So at State, I've had to learn to do a few different things differently. Like I said, it's only 2 years. So instead of getting into the brain and philosophical with people now, I've come back to my Pentecostal roots, trusting on the Holy Spirit and asking for revelation into the person's heart. Because we already know that the hardest distance to travel, the longest distance to travel in life is 18 inches. 18 inches between your brain and your heart. The things you know about God, the things you know about truth, maybe even the things you know about yourself here, or you ought to know, and to get it in here that you really, truly do know. So kids, you're growing up and you heard all this stuff about how Jesus loves you, and you know it here. How many of you know it here? How many of you come into this place and go, wow, Jesus loves me deeply, truly, even as I am? And we truly believe that. We live it out of here because we live out of our heart, right? The words that flow out of our mouth come from our heart. The things that we act in our person and our body come straight through what's deeply rooted in our hearts. So Christians, next slide. Ooh. Our Christian history has some pretty colorful past. But this one on the left, Emperor Constantine I, he was the very first Christian Roman emperor. And he made Christianity a big deal. Prior to that, Romans were polytheists. They believe in many, many, many gods. And once he understood who Jesus was, he made Christianity the religion of Rome. However, his life as an influence was quite short-lived. And when he died, and I don't remember how he died, and his entire family died, his sons died, that the next in line was his nephew, Emperor Julian. And Julian hated the fact that Constantine made Rome Christian. So he reverted everything back to the way things were. Let's go back to polytheism. And here's what Christians at that time were accused of. So this word you've heard, atheist, we think it means you don't believe in God, right? So no theist God, right? No theo, no God. You don't believe in God. So he called Christians atheists because we only believed in one. So we didn't believe in multi-gods. So the first atheists in history were Christians. Funny, huh? So Julian did his very best to kind of thwart things and rechange the laws and whatever. Let me go to this next slide, and it's a lot of reading here, but this is Julian was quoted in saying this as he's trying to encourage his high priest to make things better in their expression of what their temples or churches were. And this is a quote from him. He says, "The Hellenic religion does not yet prosper as I desire, and it is the fault of those who profess it. For the worship of the gods is on the splendid and magnificent scale, surpassing every prayer and every hope. May Adrestia," she's a goddess, "pardon my words, for indeed no one a little while ago would have ventured even to pray for a change of such a sort, or so complete within so short a time." So he's referring to the fact that when they were Christians, those who didn't believe in Christianity never thought there would become a time when they could come yet again to polytheism. So this is why he's so impressed with it. He's so joyful that he's making these changes. But at the same time, he's accusing them. And this is his accusation. He says, "Why then do we think this is enough? Why do we not observe that it is the Christians, benevolence to strangers, their care for the graves of the dead, and the pretended holiness of their lives that have done most to increase atheism? I believe that we ought really and truly to practice every one of these virtues, for it is disgraceful that no Jew ever has to beg, and the impious Galileans, the Christians, support not only their own poor, but ours as well. All men see that our people lack aid from us." Christians were being accused of loving too well. They did way better a job than the polytheists for loving people who weren't part of their community and part of their group, people who weren't just Christians. So Christians in the early church followed, they didn't use the name Christian. They were people who follow the way. You know what the way is? It's the way of Christ. That's it. We followed the way. Back in the 70s, when I was a young person, there was a Bible called The Way, trying to get us to follow back into the way. It's still pursuit now. I think we as a church have to revamp the way that we live out Christ, the way that we follow. I don't think you can look at our world now and find anyone who's a current day atheist would accuse us of Christians of loving too well. I think you can argue with me on this, but my experience on campus, people who argue against Christian existence, is the fact that we are intolerant, or they think it's a fact that we are intolerant. They think that we don't care for human rights. The biggest thing going on right now is what? Sexual identity, the right to be gay, the right to be whatever. And they think that we are intolerant in our expression. It's just going to get worse and messier, because we are finding ourselves once again living in a culture where our country isn't a Christian nation. You can kid yourself if you want, but we are not a Christian nation. Statistically, I think we're like 11%. But in actuality, we're probably less than that, because that 11% includes the habitual Christians who just go because, oh, mom and dad made me go, and now I go, and I go twice a year, Easter and Christmas, right? So those people are also included in the numbers when we say that we're Christian. We are not a very Christian nation. We are yet again the same way we were back in the early church, when we were a fledgling society of people who followed the way. I want to encourage us this morning that you follow the way. And because you follow the way, you have to follow the way in truth, truthfully and fully. You can't just follow the way partially. You can't just follow the way with parts of your life because it works for you in the lifestyle you want. And I don't want to come across as being holier than you or whatever. I feel safe here. I feel safe here that you're my DNA, that we're the same, that we have history in these 4 walls, 8 walls, I guess. And because I feel it's okay for me to challenge you a little bit this morning, to follow the way in a more sincere way, to reach out and discern what it is that God is requiring of you to live a deeper life, a different life, a life that when people meet you for the first time, discover you're a Christian, I want them to say things that I've experienced people saying on campus when they meet me. And they go, what? You're a different Christian than I've understood for Christians to be. You view things a little differently. You act or behave a little differently. I understood the church to be unloving and uncaring and holier than thou and all this sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, they're just as a bunch of hypocrites, because they'll say one thing and do another. And you know what? I don't want people saying that. I don't want them saying that to you. I don't want them to call you out as being a hypocrite. I want them to call you out as being, you're different. You're different than what I've understood as a Christian. All the stuff that I've been hurt from the Christian churches, I see that different in you. That you're not the same. That's my prayer for you guys as a church, as people, as individuals. Some of you I'm friends with, right? I really care deeply that you grasp hold of a really radical move that's happening in our world right now. Radical meaning going backwards. Radical for us to get back to the roots, the grassroots of where we began. We've taken for granted 2,000 years of Christian history, and that we have, you go into the political arena in the U.S., and I don't want to get into politics, but I'm going to get into politics. And I was a little dumbfounded to find President Orange. I was really surprised, and I was surprised more that some of the Christians that I respected really applauded and found that, I found them posting things and I found them writing articles that this is salvation for us. This is a godsend. And he might be. But it's not what I witnessed in the previous verse of what I learn and what I see and what I receive, what I hear from, that I would want to model any of that. And does he represent us as Christians? Is he representing Christ? I think it's time for us to re-present who Christ is. There's a presentation of Christ that people have for way too long, our brothers and sisters who call Christ brother, who call God Father, just as we do. And they espouse in a certain way, but they live a different way, right? And I'm quite tired of that. I'm quite tired of having to apologize for what Christians do and say and hurt. And I don't know if you guys are too. I don't know if you're tired of being a little bit, what's the word? Tiptoey about your faith. I don't want you to be. I want you to be proud that you follow after Jesus and you follow the way. You follow the way because there's salvation for you, that you've experienced salvation. You've experienced Christ in a new way. You've experienced him deeply, emotionally. That you, to the point where you couldn't help but go, I'm going to shout it from the mountaintops. I'm going to exclaim who Christ is because of what he's done for me. How beautiful it is. I'll share a little story. I didn't ask her permission to share this story, but there's a student at one of our UCM campuses who came from a pretty different lifestyle and pursuing the homosexual lifestyle for a number of years. And she grew up in the church. But this is where she found safety. This is where she found love. This is where she found acceptance. Until one day, God encountered her, and she has changed dramatically. And it was through her experience at university. It's through her experience that she started to find Christian community with us at UCM. And she's found a place to belong, and she's found her meaning and purpose. She's found a new life in Jesus, that she's repented of all that. She's moved away from her homosexual lifestyle, and she's pursuing a lifestyle that would honor God. And she is the most vocal Christian you will ever meet. Unashamedly. She'll walk down halls and meet people and talk to people about Jesus that quickly. I can't do it. I can't snap. But she's like that. She challenges me that I'm not bold enough. She's bold. I don't have enough faith that my words would have an effect or that people would give me the time of day, and she is. She really pushes me, and I love it. I love her, and I'm sure she'll forgive me for sharing. I wish, I probably should have invited her to come here and share her story. That would have been beautiful. But it's because God encountered her dramatically. And if you're not living the life of the way, I want to challenge you. Maybe you haven't encountered God dramatically. Because if you've encountered dramatically a life with God, you can't help but live on purpose for him. Your whole life will get changed. You're going to reshape what you're studying in school. You're going to reshape what you're pursuing in life and how you're going to spend your monies and where you're going to give your dollars and all that sort of stuff. Everything will change because you're going to live for Christ, because you're a member of the people who follow the way. And I think I'm guilty as a affluent Westerner. I'm comfortable. I have a car. In fact, we have two. Karina drives one, I drive one. We have a house. We have a rickety picket fence. We have anything that we could ever want. Jesus had no place to lay his head. Foxes had holes. Son of Man had no place to lay his head. Jesus had no home. Are we really following the way? Am I pursuing affluence? Am I pursuing a good name and a title? Is that the way? Am I pursuing retirement savings plans? And all that stuff are good, but are we trading the good for the great? Are we really following the way? It might be time for us to check ourselves. It might be time for us to go, what am I really pursuing? Is this Jesus stuff for real? Is it for every day? Is it the first thought? And I'm not trying to badger you. I'm not trying to beat you up. please, I don't understand or know where you're at. I don't know any of your individual stories. Well, I don't know most of your individual stories. But I want to encourage. I want to encourage that you would seek with passion the way. This worship service here, I was really impressed with just the gentleness in worship. Daniel referred it to as a fast set and a slow set. I like that. I like that you didn't call it. We used to do this when I was first leading worship in this church. We'd sing the fast songs, the praise songs, and then we'd go, now let's enter into a time of worship. Like before wasn't, now is, right? So I like that you didn't call it that. It's a fast set and a slow set. I get it. We have that in life. Sometimes things are moving in like wildfire for living with Jesus and doing mission trips. Where's the young ladies going on mission? Guatemala. I love it. That's fantastic and very doable goals. I hope your mission in life isn't just, that one trip we did in Guatemala. You can live mission in these streets. You get to live mission right here. Sam opened up the doors when you were practicing worship because he made note that there was bagpipes there, and then there's Chinese drum lion dancing there. But in the smack middle are those who are praising and worshiping Jesus. I want that to be our lives. That's what my prayer for you as people. To represent Jesus, to represent Jesus. I just highlighted PR in the middle of it all. Public relations. How do we represent Jesus? How do we represent Jesus? I hope I haven't taken up too much of your time or bored you. But can we have the band? Is it the band? Worship team? The people with the jing of the jing and the jang of the jang. And the thumpity thump. Yeah, let's all get up here and find a song. Lead us into a place of reflection with music. Whatever song you guys have. I'll get out of your way so you can have your mic back. Let's just close our eyes. Let's pray real quickly. Father, it is a blessing for us to be called by your name. It is a joy. It's hard for us to live up to the fullness of who you are. And we are fallen people, and we are broken people, and we have lots of stuff going on in our lives where we fail in many, many, many ways. And yet you love us. You choose to love us anyways, despite all that, through all that, because of all that. Father, in this morning, we yield to you the matters of our heart. And we ask, Father, that you would reignite us, help us to present you well, help us to represent you. Maybe what we need, Father, is a road to Damascus experience with you. Maybe we need something magical to happen in our lives. We haven't, and some of us haven't experienced you in a deep emotional way in a long, long time. Father, would you come by your Spirit now and fall gently on us? Fall gently on us and motivate us into a deeper place with you. Not that we would be whimsical and fleeting, but because we want to go deeper and deeper with you, Holy Spirit. We want to be led by the Spirit, not by our brains. We want to make an impact in this world, not for our name, but for yours. We don't care if we end up in a magazine or we end up in a newspaper. We care that we want and to represent you well and do a good job of it with our neighbors and our families and our friends, our coworkers. Father, take us where we are. Speak gently into our hearts. Cause us to move in ways that would honor you.
Call me out upon the